Welcome to Excel 2013 Statistical Analysis video number 5. Hey, if you want to download this workbook and follow along, click on the link below the video. Hey, in this video, we want to talk about different types of data. And in particular, we want to talk about the scales of measurement for raw data. See, we have different types of raw data. And with different types of raw data come different abilities, different levels of information, and different calculations that we can make. So there's 4 categories. There's nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Now we'll talk about those 4 and look at some examples. There's also 2 broad categories for the variables we're going to use. Categorical variable. Notice it says category, so usually it's a word or a name or some text. Occasionally it's a number, like the number 1 represents iPhone, number 2 represents Android. But categorical variables just means there's some category. And then quantitative variables. Quantitative means number. Now when you have quantitative variables, there's going to be 2 different kinds. Discrete, which is counting. There are gaps between the numbers. And continuous. Continuous is like weight and height. Money is continuous. It depends on the measuring instrument. Whereas discrete is counting, and there are gaps between the numbers, like counting 1, 2, 3, or 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Continuous, there are no gaps between the numbers because it depends on the measuring instrument, right? If you're weighing something, it depends on the measuring instrument. It could be 1.2 pounds or 1.23 pounds or 1.2348 pounds. All right, quantitative, categorical. Let's go up and look at our 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of measurement. Now I have the complete notes here. I want to go over to the sheet Scales of Measurement. Now we have a data set here, and our primary key filled with elements are student names. So we have 3 students, and look at this. We have 8 field names or variables. Phone, eye color, rank in class, rating of teacher, body temperature, SAT score, score on final where it was from 0 to 100, and money in the bank. What's great about these 8 variables that we have examples of nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scales or levels of measurement. Now, nominal and ordinal are going to be categorical. Interval and ratio are quantitative. Let's just start with nominal. We have phone. Hey, it's just a word or a category, and we can't really rank them. Now, you may be thinking, well, wait a second. I can rank the iPhone over the Android and Samsung. But what you'd probably be doing is ranking cost, which would be a ratio level variable, or satisfaction. That would be an ordinal level. So in and of themselves, the names have no rank. Same with eye color or car, like Toyota, Honda. Now, the only thing we can really do with this kind of variable is simply count. Now, we start with nominal. When we jump up to ordinal, we have a rank. Whereas with nominal, we don't have a rank. Here we have a rank. The thing about ordinal, though, is we could have categories bad, OK, good, and excellent. But you really don't know the distance between them. When we talk about interval, like body temperature or SAT score, you actually know the exact distance. There's a fixed distance between 1509 and 1510, right? It's 1. But here, you don't really know the difference. So the characteristics of ordinal level data is that there's a rank or an order, but you don't know the distance between them. Now, rank in the class, don't get tricked by that. Think about 1, 2, all the way up to 30 ranking. But the rank is probably based on grade or score or something like that. The rank in and of themselves is simply ordinal level. Now, whereas ordinal, we had rank, and you don't know the distance between each rank. Now, interval will have a rank, and we know the distance between each rank. So body temperature, SAT score. Not only that, but 0, if 0 exists in the scale, is just a point on the scale. Think about Fahrenheit or Celsius. Celsius, 0 means freezing. Fahrenheit means 32 degrees below 0. So 0 is just a point on the scale. And guess what? SAT scores, body temperature, and other interval scales of measurement, you cannot divide numbers. You can't take an SAT score and do division and say this student is twice as smart as this other student. Hey, 0 is not even a point on this scale. Same with body temperature. It doesn't mean anything because 0 is just a point on the scale. Now, one interesting point about temperature, if you're measuring molecular kinetic energy, you could use something called Kelvin, where 0 means there's no molecular kinetic energy. Then that is certainly a scale, but that's a ratio level measurement because you can do division in Kelvin temperature and say one temperature is double another one. So with interval, we can rank them with no distance. 0, if it exists, it's just a point on the scale, and ratio is not OK. Now we jump up to ratio, and guess what? It's all the same characteristics as interval, but now you're allowed to do division. And 0 means that nothing exists. So for example, if you have a scoring system 0 to 100, well, 0 means you didn't get anything, right? Over here for an SAT score or IQ score, 600 doesn't mean you don't have any smartness, right? But here on this scale here, 0 to 100, 0 means you got no points. Money in the bank, same thing. 0 means you don't have any money. So ratio, you can rank it. You know the distance between each one. 0 means nothing exists, and ratio is OK. You can divide two bank account amounts and say, hey, this one's 25% more than this other one, or double this other one. Now let's go over to the sheet Scales of Measurement 2 and look at some more examples. We have some data sets here for nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. We'll start with this nominal one. Hey, we have student name, their phone preference, and notice that sometimes with nominal data, you can designate the use of a number to represent whatever category it is. So 1 is going to be iPhone. 1 is going to be iPhone. 6 will be Sprint. It doesn't mean that you can do many calculations. It's still nominal, so the only thing we're left to do is count. Well, let's go ahead and see if we can count. I'm going to use a pivot table. Click in a single cell, Alt and V, and we're going to see if we can count all of the iPhones and Motorola's, etc. Click existing. I'm going to click in location and get dangerous. Put it in E4, click OK. I'm going to drag this down. Phone type to rows. Phone type, remember, if we drag a nominal or text field down to values, it defaults to counting. So it's looking pretty good. I'm going to change the row labels. Design. Report layout in either outline or tabular. I'm going to use outline. Hey, let's do a second pivot table and see what happens if we try to count this number field. Remember, you may think it's some other variable besides nominal, but it's not. All we can do is count. Alt and V, existing location. Now I'm going to get really dangerous. Remember, if I put a pivot table in cell A13 and click OK, if I start pivoting this one up here, it may replace and destroy this. But I'm being pretty careful. Now I'm going to put phone type number and then drag phone type number down to values. And look what happens. It's adding. That's not at all what we want. Whereas with a text field, it defaults to counting. If it's a number field, it defaults to sum. But pivot tables are awesome and easy. You just right-click in the value area, summarize values by, and I'm changing it to count. And just like that, we get the exact same listing. Nominal level, we're stuck with counting. Now I'm going to click outside the pivot table to make that field list go away. Now here in this data set, we have ordinal level. We're ranking. And I want to do two examples, and we're going to do a formula here. We have all of our categories. So this is for a student's rating a professor. I'm going to use the countifs function to count with one condition. So the criteria range, Control-Shift down arrow, F4, comma, and the criteria, that's going to be left arrow, one cell to my left. That's a relative cell reference. So as I copy down, it will pick up each one of the conditions or criteria. Control, Enter, double click, and send it down. So you can see down at the bottom, poor. Man, look at that. 177. I'm doing a terrible job of teaching. I better try and do better. Now, you can choose to do a number to represent these categories, right? And we've all seen this in surveys. 1 is going to represent poor, 2 is OK, 3 is good, etc. So we can totally use countifs for this too. And I'm going to get the criteria range, Control Shift down arrow, F4 to lock it, comma, and then left arrow to put my criteria in, the number 4. It's going to look through here and count all the number 4s. Absolute relative reference, Control Enter, double click and send it down. And we go to the bottom and you can see F2. We got the same exact numbers. Now there's something interesting here because this is a rating. We can come down and average the whole column. Average, and we could highlight the whole column, Control Shift down arrow, and Shift Enter to put the formula in the cell and move up. So we can see we got an average there, and that's OK here. But with ordinal and nominal, you're very limited in the types of calculations and in some of the charts you can do. You can see in both cases here, we could do a column chart where the columns were not touching, or a pie chart for that matter. One last important thing, especially about ordinal, but also about nominal. Do you see that there's no rank here? Well, we got that. But there's a rank here, but it's important to realize we do not know the distance between each one of the categories. When someone selects excellent or good or OK, another person selecting excellent, good, or OK might have a completely different set of criteria. We really don't know the distance. Even for these numbers, when you select 1, 2, 3, or 4, one person's 4 may be another person's 2. So even though we're ranking here, we really don't know the distance between each category. All right, now let's go look at interval and ratio. We have interval level, Fahrenheit, Celsius. Over here, we have ratio level, temperature scale, Kelvin. We also, for our interval, have SAT scores. Now, I've already done the calculation here. I wanted to count between these categories, so I used the countifs, and we saw how to do this in video number 1, and we'll see this in chapter 2 again. But I counted, so it's certainly all right to count interval data or ratio level data for that matter. So you can come over here, and we're counting. This is amounts in the bank. So I'm counting how many bank accounts had between 1,000 and 2,000, how many had between 0 and 1,000. So both for interval and ratio, we can certainly count. And we can average. Let's go ahead and see if we can get the average SAT score. So equals average. And Control Enter. It's perfectly all right to average. Same goes for ratio level. Average. I could certainly average all of the amounts in the bank. Control Enter. For this set of customers, the average balance was 1,931 and 5 pennies. Over here, we could certainly say the average SAT scores for students 1 to 13 is 1415.46. Now, here's what we can't do. Here's student 6 score and student's 10 score. We can't simply divide the two and say student number 10 is twice as smart as student number 6. There is no 0 on this scale. Similarly, we can't make our percentage calculation. Hey, we're going to take the second one divided by the first one and subtract 1 to get the percentage change. You can't say, hey, student 10 is 100% smarter. It's that 0 thing. That scale right there doesn't start at 0. And 0 doesn't mean the absence of smartness. But over here, we're no problem. We're allowed to take FAM's amount and divide it by Phil's and say, yep, FAM has twice as much as Phil. Not only that, but we could calculate the percentage change. Hey, we take the second one divided by the first one and subtract 1, and boom, FAM has 100% more than Phil. Scroll down here, and you can see some notes here. Ratio is meaningful because 0 means that nothing exists. Over here, it's exactly the opposite. So scales of measurement or levels of measurement, ratio, interval, both quantitative variables, ordinal and nominal, both categorical variables. Now I want to go look at a couple last things. Let's go over to the sheet CS data, and I want to differentiate between cross-sectional data. That's data collected at the same or nearly the same point in time, and this TS time series data, data collected over time. So here was our example. We took the dates and the adjusted close, and we clearly on a chart see the date here, and we're seeing what's happening over time. That's time series data. Now, if I go back over to CS data, this is actually when we went to Yahoo to download the data, this is what was there. We were comparing Google, Facebook, Yahoo, and the industry with a bunch of metrics. EBITDA, operating margin, earnings per share, price earnings. This is all at a single point in time. I think it was December 20th. And this is a cross-sectional set of data. A single point in time or nearly the same time. And we also have time series data. Now I want to go over to the data diagram to summarize what we've talked about. Well, there's that raw data we're going to be dealing with. Categorical, that means a category. Quantitative, that means a number. But with categorical, we can have non-numeric or numeric. And then we have either nominal or ordinal. And under quantitative, well, it's got to be a number, and it's interval or ratio. And 0 is the difference between these. 0 means that we have nothing, like in a bank account when you have 0 money. Oh, what a bummer. Hey, one last thing. Let's go over to entering data in Excel. Now, this is your homework problem in Chapter 1. And I want to show you, you're going to read the textbook. And just like I did, I read the textbook. I typed out the field names and typed out this data. But I got to show you something that's going to be awesome, but you also have to be careful of it. Notice this is the picture from the textbook for this particular homework problem. I'm going to type Windows, OK, and then Android, and then iOS. But watch this. This is the 4th record here that I'm entering, and I'm entering the operating system. As soon as I type a W, this is autofill. Now, it's trying to be really polite. It's looking above. The way this is programmed is that it's looking above. Because there's only one word that starts with W, it immediately gives you this option. Now, think about this. If we're entering lots of raw data, that is really convenient. So W, enter, W, enter, A, enter, W, enter. One caveat is that if you had a different operating system, which we don't here, as soon as you, let's say the name of the system was Way Cool. As soon as I type a W, it's looking above, so you got to be careful and just keep typing Way Cool. Now, watch this. When I type a W, nothing comes up. But when I type an I, it knows to go to Windows. I'm going to click Escape. When I type WA, now it knows to go to Way Cool. So that is an autocomplete feature that you got to be aware of. It definitely helps in the long run when you're entering raw data. Again, part of the whole point of this class is we are learning statistics, but we're always dealing with data. So A, enter, A, enter. Same with over here. I, enter, I, enter, I, enter, T, enter, I, enter, N, enter. Oh, there's no N yet, so I better type it out. So the first time I bump into something, obviously it's not going to be there because the way it's working is it's looking above, finding any word that starts with N. Now when I hit Enter and type in N, and by the way, if it's capital above and you type a little one, it's going to capitalize it. So don't even bother to hit that caps lock key. All right, so now your job after watching all these videos is to do the homework problems that are listed in the syllabus. That means you have to open up a brand new Excel workbook, File, New, or Control N. And I'm going to give it a good name, something like, and I'm not going to use File, Save As, because then you have to go Save As, and then you have to go to Computer, then you have to go to Browse. All of that to open up this dialog box. I'm actually going to use the keyboard for Save As, F12. I love it. I skipped over all that extra steps there. Now I'm going to name this something smart. Something like that. Homework, your name, Chapter 1, Business 210. And you should have a new workbook for your homework for each chapter. And don't forget, I know some of you will, and you'll try to hand it in. It's not handed in for points. It is just for you to practice so you can do well on the quizzes and tests. Now I want to remind you, we can jump to the front of the workbook by holding Control and click. And here's the topics. These are hyperlinks. And the keyboards, I've updated them. So these are all the new keyboards that we've seen in this video. So each week when you download your workbook for whatever chapter it is, I will update the keyboard sheet. All right, we'll see you next chapter and next video.